Hey guys, think back to the last time you felt angry. Go on, rewind and go back to that point in time. It probably was fairly recently, like it was for me, when I read an article online and it got me really riled up and I was really pissed off. And I wanted to get onto Facebook and get onto some sort of a social media outlet that I know that I shouldn't because I'm supposed to be off social media, but I still want to just vent my anger and speak my mind through just telling it like it is and telling people off and saying how bad everyone is and how everyone should change. And yeah, anger can fuel bad moves and it can fuel positive moves. This is what I want to talk about today. I think there's a lot of untapped power, energy, drive in our aggressive side. Now, don't deny it. You are sitting like an incubating chicken on an egg of anger, and we can use it. We can use that anger. We don't need to deny it. We don't need to be ashamed of it. Now, a big issue for many men is lacking motivation, lacking that continual, consistent drive that we know we need to have in order to fulfill our projects, hit our deadlines, find success in whatever way you define it, and find that fulfillment. Where is that motivation that we need when we need it the most? Motivation can be a hard one, and I want to talk about tapping into our aggression in terms of finding that continual motivation and finding perhaps some meaning in life by looking in the direction of anger and looking to how we can make use of anger in a positive way. I'm not talking about going out there and beating people up and being violent and everything else and thinking in a negative stew. I'm talking about using and harnessing the anger we have, the aggression that we are potentially able to use, that we sometimes misuse, and we sometimes use it to just get in a stew and we get in a bad mood and it's a waste of time. I want you to think back to a time where you got angry and it motivated you to do something. Can you think of an example of that? When you got angry about something, you were just fed up, you reached the end of your tether and you went out there, and whether it was positive or negative, you had this newfound energy and you were finding yourself in a flow, you were being assertive, you spoke up when you needed to, you stood up for yourself, you just pushed through this invisible barrier that we're normally pushing up against because we're too fearful and whatever else. And I always talk about the importance of aggression in getting us through our fears. And I think a lot of us are held back, not because we're lazy, but because we have these insecurities and these fears that block us from doing things. And aggression can be a very powerful way of getting through these things. I remember when I was in my early 20s, I'd just been recently broken up with by someone I really liked, and I had been to a stag do with a load of guys in Wales, and I had just come back home and I'd been on the train all day and I was exhausted and I was extremely hungover. And of course that brought with it, with the added depression of having recently broken up, I was in a real funk. I was totally experiencing severe anxiety, and that, coupled with my general social anxiety that I had in the first place, really put me into a very low place. And I was very depressed for about a day, but I remember thinking to myself, I need to change now. This is ridiculous. I need to do better. I need to improve. I need to go get success, the success I deserve. I need to be assertive here. And I was very angry with the way that I was, and I was very angry with the way that my situation was. And it really, really pushed me. I remember thinking, this needs to change. I needed to put my foot down, and I felt this surge of anger, which led to a lot of activity in the coming days and weeks, which meant that I increased my output, my productivity went up. I resolved to producing more illustrations and really developing and building a successful illustration business, which turned out to go very well after a while. So the anger played a key role there. The anger of not being happy where I was, the anger of not being happy with the situation of my life, I made use of it and I turned it into a positive. Now, I think that being consumed by anger and letting it control your life in every aspect is of course a bad thing. We don't want to be in a completely negative cloud of anger and negativity and resentment and lack of forgiveness for those people who have wronged you. That's just one-way ticket to hell, because you're just constantly the victim in that situation. You're at the mercy of everything around you. Everyone else is at fault, and you're not at fault. You're the victim, and you're going to suffer in that way. But if you can turn anger into a spark of ignition, not to be ruled by it, but to use it, to harness it, to be able to think back to a moment in your past that angered you, or to think about things that you're not happy with in your life and in the state of the world, and use those little just pieces of awareness to spark something in you, to spark that initial bit of momentum that you need in order to start moving. So how can we use anger in a way that isn't going to completely consume us with hate and shame, not shame, but aggression and resentment? We need to find a way of using it in a way that is going to fuel us in a positive way, that is going to fuel our action, is going to drive us to do things towards good, towards positive change in our world and of course the world around us. So one of the ways to do that is to ask yourself questions. So get out a pen and paper and ask yourself the kinds of questions that are going to prompt you to become aware of what makes you cross, what makes you angry, what riles you up. What makes you angry? What in your life are you not happy with that needs to change? What is it about your life that has caused you to not pursue your dreams? What's blocking you from what you want in life? What do you need to do in order to overcome those blocks to get you to where you want to go? What are you tolerating in life? What are you suffering from that needs to change? And why have you been suffering for so long? And why have you been suffering for such a long time when you could have changed it? Think about all the times that you cheated yourself from pursuing your dreams, your goals, your joys in life. Really take it apart and be honest with yourself. Look into those moments that have blocked you from getting to where you want, the bumps in your life that have taken away, that have stolen from your true dreams and goals and wants. And find a way of getting angry about those things. Really immerse yourself in that awareness of how you have cheated yourself, how you've robbed yourself in certain ways. Perhaps you want to think about other elements of the world around you that are bothering you right now, because these can often lead to fulfilling projects to pursue or bits of content to talk on. For example, a lot of my best articles and a lot of my best videos have been about things that have angered me. So use your anger to fuel new projects, new pursuits, new passions, perhaps even new jobs and even entire careers. So in my case, one of the things that gets me angry is the state of the world's attitude to men and masculinity and how it's being held back, I think, in many aspects, and how I want to change that state of affairs, and I want to help men and I want to help young men become leaders and good communicators and confident, happy people. And I still am not happy with the state of affairs, and it makes me angry. And that, of course, drives me to produce and to create and be prolifically productive every day in a way that I would not have been able to achieve in any way if I hadn't found that anger. So figure out what makes you angry, prod that source of aggression, and see how you can turn it into something positive. And if you find yourself flagging or losing motivation in life and career, rather than try and blanket everything with positivity and dreams and happiness and, you know, affirmations and all that stuff, which is okay in parts, especially if you're getting too negative, but also think about what makes you angry. Remind yourself of those things that you aren't happy with, that need to change, and immerse yourself in those emotions, and don't deny those emotions. Sit with the anger. Allow it to bubble up inside you and really feel it. So you don't need to verbalize that anger. You don't need to picture the images that are coming up through those sensations. Just feel it and see how it can guide you, and see what kinds of thoughts come up in response to that anger. And maybe you're going to get some visions on how things can change positively. Obviously, you know, be your own best guide in terms of following what is going to be good for you and the world around you, rather than to be driven by hate and violence and trying to suppress and oppress other people. That's not required. We can achieve a lot and move from bad to good through positive change. So, you know, don't burn the house down, but make use of that anger. I think it's very underspoken, and I think it's often ridiculed and mocked, especially in men, this toxic masculinity and all that. I think there's a huge amount of power that's simmering in every man. It's a gift, I think. A good amount of aggression is a gift given to man to help him survive, to help him go out into the world and be assertive and get what he wants and make use of it. It's a gift given to you by the universe, by whoever, that you might not be using to its full potential. And one of the ways to crack into it is to simply start being aware of it, to sit down and write down answers to the questions that get you thinking about what makes you angry. So again, list out, brainstorm all those things that make you angry at the moment. What is causing you suffering? What needs to change? And how can you get angry about those things in order to make positive actions? If you look back over many of the world's geniuses and most prolific and productive people, they tended to have been responding to their own inner demons and aspects of the world around them that they wanted to change, that they were not happy with, that they felt they needed to change. And of course they were then driven. This energy would have come from that sense of wanting to change through a healthy aggression. So that's the chat for today. I hope that got you thinking about how to make use of some of that anger, and how to, it's not all a bad thing, and it doesn't need to lead to a reactive, negative response, which is what a victim does. Instead, see yourself as the leader of your life, the creator of your life and the things in it, and respond to anger in a positive way, and see if you can start harnessing it and riding that horse of anger in a way that can help yourself and help other people. Hope that helped. Do subscribe, smash the like button if you found this video useful, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.